G'day team, it's me, the presenter. How are ya? I trust that you're doing well. So what I've got for you today is some intermediate level word processing skills. Now, don't be intimidated. These skills are all really quite easy. So let's crack into it, shall we? Our first skill is to insert and manipulate boxes and text boxes. So in our Insert tab, we can insert a box, and you can change the color of this box. You can have, no fill. You can change the shape's effects. You can make it glow, make it 3D. That's quite cool. And you can also type within this box. But if you're inserting a box just for the sole intent of having text in it, what I suggest is actually inserting a text box. And to do this, what we want to do is select where we want a text box to be, go back into our Insert tab, and all the way over on the right hand side, let's just move over there, you'll see text box. So you click down on text box, and there's a bunch of presets. So I usually just go for the draw a simple text box, and it pops up with a simple text box. Now from here you can just start typing. You can put in whatever text you'd like. That's inserting a text box. It's nice and easy. You also have a range of customization options that you can run with your text box. You can fill the shape with a different color. You can play with the shape outline. Nice purple. We'll give it a bit of weight. Shape effects, let's give it a bit of a shadow. There we go, now it's got a bit of a shadow, do you see it? You can also manipulate the text in here. So you can see we've got justification, we've got our alignment, left, right, centered, we've got bulleting options. This is all just like normal text. What I really want to show you though is, because we know how to manipulate text and images, we've been doing that throughout our courses, I want to show you something really cool. I want to show you how to thread. Now I'm just going to change the shape of this text box. Okay. Now sometimes you're going to have a lot of text in your text box. Okay, so let's just do that. Can you see what's happening there? I'm putting in a lot of text into this text box, but it's not all showing. It's all flowing down here. Do you see it? It's all disappearing. Now that's because when you type in a text box and you run out of space, typing just flows on down into, nowhere really. It's still there, but you can't see it. This is where you can do something quite handy. So let me just quickly insert another text box. Okay, now I have two text boxes. Let's say I want the text that's not displaying in this text box to automatically display itself in this text box when this one gets full. Well, that's nice and easy. All I have to do is select my first text box, and in your tabs you'll notice a new one pop up when you select your text box. It's called Shape Format. Now you're going to want to do that, and you're going to look for a button that says Create Link. Click it. Now when you click this Create Link button, you'll notice that your cursor changes. It's like this little weird milk jug thing, okay? Now what this is it's saying, hey, okay, sweet. Any text that overflows in the selected box will go to the new selected box. So now you just got to select, and you'll see the cursor change again when you've come into another text box where you can select. That'll change. Do you see it? What that is saying is your text will overflow into here. So when I left click, you'll see the overflowing text there automatically appear. And so now when we type things, it'll automatically come down into the new text box. How cool is that? That's threading, and it is a pretty handy tool because it means that if you've got too much text for one or the other of your text boxes, you don't have to change the shape or the size of them. You can just link them. They become best friends. Now, sometimes when you're writing certain types of documents for certain stakeholders, you're going to find that you need a couple of text manipulation techniques. Now, we know how to change the font and the size and the color and the alignment, all that sort of thing. But what about subscript and superscript? Okay? You know, a superscript is when you've got a word and then it's got the little letter or number up top. Here, like this. Now we've got 2. Do you see how it's on top now? Just little and above. That's superscript. Below, subscript. Now that's nice and easy, okay? Now what you want to do is you want to highlight what you want to change into subscript and superscript, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop something up here. I'll go pizza, okay? Now I'm going to highlight my pizza. To make it superscript, in my home tab, I'm just going to go in where I would normally manipulate my text, so choosing my font and whatnot, and I'd go the X with the little 2, and that's superscript, okay? Click it, and the word pizza is now superscript. To make it subscript, click the one with the little 2 below the X. You do that, my pizza is now subscript. And you'll be told when to do this in any briefs that you're given if you need to do it. So don't worry too much about it. It's a nice, easy way of manipulating text. Alignment is easy, okay? We all know that you can align your text either left, right, center, or justified. And you can do that, you know, using the buttons in your home ribbon up here. So left, centered, right, and justified. You can also use your keyboard shortcuts, you know, Control R, for example. Control E, for some reason, is centered. Playing with your alignment is very, very easy to do. And often you'll be told what alignment to use, but often you won't be. And it's up to you to use your best judgment. If this is the case, left-hand alignment is usually, you know, your go-to. But sometimes you'll use a center alignment. Read through this document and look for, you know, any instances of center aligning. Why did we choose to have that bit of text center aligned? Now, line spacing is another customizable feature that you hopefully will have come across by now. Okay, highlight your text that you want to manipulate, right click, go into paragraph. That brings this nice looking menu up, and you'll see here that we have spacing. Okay, now we can play with our paragraph spacing, and what that does is that manipulates the amount of space before and after our paragraphs. Do you see it moving down here? So this is a space between paragraphs, and over here we have our line spacing. So we can have multiple, and we can decide how much space is between each line. We can have single line spacing, and there is not a lot of space between your lines. I quite like to go either 1.5 or 1.15. You can just type it in manually as well. So you just highlight the lines that you want to manipulate and play with the line spacing. When it's all done and you're happy with it, you just hit OK. You can see it changes your line spacing. That's nice and easy. Okay, have a play with coming up with some crazy line spacing options and see what happens. Page and section breaks. You may have played with page breaks before, and that's when you select where you want two different pages to be that will have different formatting. Okay, so let's add one here just to see. Okay, so in my layout tab, I hit down breaks, and I'm gonna hit next page, and that will mean that I now have a break between the two pages. So I'm just gonna bring this back up to the top. Okay, so now this page here, because there is a break between the two pages, we'll have different formatting to this page down here. So what we can do is change the layout of the second page. So let's say I want that second page to be landscape. You'll notice that that break has allowed us to have portrait orientation here and then landscape for the next page. That's the power of a page break. Now a section break does the same thing, but is used to put a break between text on the same page. In the layout tab, go down to break, and you'll hit continuous, and this will insert a section break and start a new section on the same page. This will mean that this text here and this text here will act differently, and you can see it when you put the show hide on. You can see the section break here. That's quite cool. With a long document, you're going to want a good page numbering system. This page here is number 4. Now, all of the documents that we here at Bespoke produce all have very similar page numbering systems and conventions. This helps people identify it as one of our documents. But that doesn't mean you can't play with your page numbering, alright? In your Insert tab, if you scroll along, you will find Insert Page Number, okay? In with the headers and footers. That's because page numberings, you can either insert it on your header and your footer. They don't really go anywhere else in the document. If we hit the little down arrow with our page number, we can see that we can put them at the top of the page, bottom of the page, put them in the margins, or we can format page numbers. And that brings up this fun little option, okay? Now this is where you can change the format of your numbers. You can have it as, you know, an alphabet, Roman numerals. You can include chapter numbers, okay? And so this is where you can actually give your documents chapters, okay? You can use, you know, colons or dashes in between your chapter title and your page number. Now, where the strength of playing with your page numbering options really comes in is you can actually have different types of page numbers, okay? So your first few page numbers could be Roman numerals, and then you flick into, you know, just your numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? You can also start numbering wherever you like. So let's say you've created a title page and you don't want a number. Well, that's easy. You can just start numbering at the second page. You hit, and because I started numbering at the second page, you'll notice that there's no number here on the cover page, but if we scroll down, you'll see we start numbering here. It's quite handy. Now, in the Insert tab, actually right by page numbers, you will see header and footer. Now, you may have used the header and footer before, you know, in your studies, and you may have just used them quite basic, you know, just have one bit of text or 3 different items in your header or your footer, okay? But they can actually be quite powerful, because what you can do is go all the way down the list and to edit. And what this does is it brings up a lot of editing options. Okay? Now you can see that you can manipulate the size of your header. Okay? How big do you want everything? Okay, how far away from the top of the page do you want all of the text or whatever's in your header to be? Would you like your header and footer to be different on odd and even pages, or just different on the first page? Okay, so let's say different on odd and even pages. That means that on odd pages you could have, let's say, the date of when the document was created. And on even pages, you could have a picture. Now, how do you get a picture into a header? Well, it's just under the insert bit here. You can insert the date and time, document information, so such as who wrote it and when, or you could click in pictures, throw in a logo. You can see that we've now got a very, very big picture in our header. Okay. Then you just close the header and you'll see that our headers now have, first off, they're very big, and they have our feather in it. That's quite cool. So there's a lot of options that you can customize when making a header and footer. Okay, play around with making a really nice one, and try having, you know, different content on odd and even pages in your header and your footer. So a lot of documents will have a nice tasteful border. You can see here this document has this nice green border here, forest green, at 2 1/4 thickness. So it's really easy to set up a border in your document. You jump in your design tab, and all the way over to the right is page borders. Now what you want to do is you want to hit your page borders, and that'll bring up this lovely set of options. Now here you've got a couple of different things to do. You can put a border around some highlighted text. So if you wanted just like one paragraph to have a nice border, you would just hit borders here and you'd format it so you could have, some dots. You can change the color, go into more colors and get the whole RGB scale going. And you could have that around just one paragraph or a sentence. Now if you wanted to go into page borders, you hit page border and you've got the same thing. You can make a really nice simple border just by going box around the entire document, and that's how we've created our page border that we use, okay? But you don't have to do that. You could have, a shadow, and you can dictate where that shadow and where the border is going to be. So let's say you wanted a border that was only left and right. You didn't actually want the top of your page. Then let's choose thickness and hit OK. You'll see that our pages only now have borders on the left and the right. There is no border on the top or the bottom of each page. That's quite cool. So there really is a lot that you can do with page borders, okay? You can have, different types of lines. You could have art, okay? You could make an awful border using some art. So it's got a whole lot of preloaded, art styles in there. Or you could make your own by inserting an image and just creating that into a border. Let's go palm trees. That looks disgusting. Oh yeah, that's bad. That is a bad border. But it's palm trees, and it was using, border placement and manipulation. Because, let's say that you don't like this border, you just go back into the page borders and you change it. Let's say, I want a shadow and I want something that isn't the palm trees. Let's say what do you reckon? They're little apples or raspberries. Maybe they're capsicums. No, I think they're apples, guys. I think those are apples. But either way, we've manipulated our borders. For the better, I don't know about that. Let's say we've completed a document, okay? And we've used the wrong word over and over and over again. So I could go through and change each instance of that word, or I could tell the computer to find that word, and for every single occasion that finds that word, replace it with something else. Okay? Now I'm going to use out as an example for this, okay? So I'm just going to highlight it. Okay. Now we can easily see out. Right, now let's say throughout my entire document I've written it out as fill out rather than fill in. Okay, so I want to change out to in. Now obviously again I could go through and manually change all of these, or I could go into my home tab, go all the way over, yeah, we keep going till we hit find and replace. So if we hit find, it will allow us to find all of the instances of a word. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to replace. So I'm going to hit replace, and that's going to bring up this. Now, this is what you want, because it's saying, okay, find what? I want you to find the word out. Alright, so you type in the word that you want to replace, and in replace with, you type in the word that you would rather be there. Okay, so I want the computer to find the word out and replace it with in. So now I can do it one by going find next, and this is what I tend to usually do because it gives you a little bit more security that you're not going to accidentally change an instance of the word that you shouldn't be. Or you can go replace all, and that'll automatically do it every single time. So let's go find next. Okay, replace outcomes. Well, let's replace that so it's incomes. So as you can see, there's a lot of times that I've used the word out. So I'm just going to hit replace all 65 times. 65 occasions of the word out have now been replaced with the word in. And if we go to our highlighted areas, we can see that it's gone from out to in. And that is how you use the find and replace tool, guys. It is so easy. You just find it in your home tab and go for it. Now let's say as you're writing the document or after you've completed the document, you decide you want to play with your language. You don't want this document to be in New Zealand English, you want it to be in American English or vice versa. Okay, what you're going to do is in your review tab, hit language, go language preferences, and that is going to bring up the language options. Now this is real simple, guys. You'll see that your editing language here, you've got a main one. For me, my default is English New Zealand. But what I can do is I can hit one of the other ones and I can remove it. If I want to add a new language, I just hit the drop down menu and I choose one. Let's go Bulgarian. You add it and it's there. And from there you can enable it, or you may need to install it if your computer doesn't have it. But that is something that you can do. For me though, I usually just run with New Zealand English. You can also change your display language. Okay? So you can set different ones as the default, or you can go through and pick something else in the same way that you would the editing language. Once you're happy, you just hit OK. And then afterwards, you're going to have to restart your Microsoft Word or your Office so that your language changes can take effect. There is a number of ways that you can play with the typography, okay, that you're using. Now we all know about fonts and sizes, and now we know about superscript and subscript. We know about colors, all of that sort of stuff. But there's a couple of other things that we can do too. We can change the space between two letters, okay? Or we can change the space between, all of the letters in a sentence, okay? This is your tracking and your kerning, right? So let's right click, and then we want to click on font. That's going to bring this up, okay? Now this is the font box. We want an advanced, okay? Now what we can do is play with the spacing. Let's say expanded, and you can see what that happened there. That played with the tracking of the space between all of our characters. And you can increase or decrease that space manually, right? So this is a very good way of making your document more readable if someone has dyslexia. The more space, the easier it is for them to pick up. You can also play with the kerning. And what you'd want to do there is you want to highlight just one space, okay? The space between two symbols, two letters. And you'd play with that space individually just by increasing or decreasing, okay? So that's nice and easy to do, and then you just hit OK. Alright, so I have this word in my document. That word is schmoozle, okay? Now it's not a word that's recognized by my word processor, but let's say I want to use it more than once, okay? I don't want it to have the red squiggly line under it every time I use it. What can I do? Well, I'll tell you. That's my job. What you want to do is you want to add this word to the dictionary. That's pretty easy. You're going to highlight it. Once you've highlighted, you go into your review tab and you hit check document. From there, it's going to give you a rundown of everything that's wrong in your document. So I know that this word was spelt incorrectly according to the processor's dictionary, so I'm going to hit spelling, and because it's highlighted, it's going to be the first one that pops up. Do we see it there? And it's also going to give me a range of suggestions, but I'm going to go nah, this is exactly what I want, and I want to add it to the dictionary. And from there, that's it. It's done. I've added it to my dictionary. So now, when I type in a schmoozle, we can see my word processor's dictionary recognizes it, and I've got no red squiggle. My word processor will from now on, think schmoozle is a real word. A word. It will think it's a word. Sometimes a block of text like this, it's just not going to cut it, you know? Sometimes, in order for your document to be fit for purpose, you're going to need to put in some columns. Right, and the best way to do this is to highlight the text that you'd like to put into columns. Okay, there's the word schmoozle. See, it's still spelt correctly now. Alright, so we highlight the text that we want, and in our layout tab, we're going to select columns. And that's going to bring a drop down for, a number of different columns. We're going to go more. We want more columns. And that's going to bring up this handy little option. Okay, so we can select a couple of columns, or we can even dictate how many columns we want. So 7 columns, you can see on the preview here that there's 7. In my opinion, that's too many columns. I'm just going to run with a solid 3, I think. I'm going to put the old line in between, and I'm going to hit OK. That's going to give me 3 standard columns, alright? But that's not all you can do. Right, so let me open up the old column menu again, because here we can actually play with the spacing, okay, the space between the columns, and the space or the size of the actual text or the text blocks within the columns. And you'll see as I'm changing one, the other is changing. You see, when I decrease the size of the width of the text, the spacing in between the columns is going to increase. And that's because there's only so much text or only so much space in the document, and the two are interrelated. So that's how you change the width and the spacing in your document, of the columns in your document. So you can see that change there. It's not the best looking, but it shows you how you can not only put a line between your columns and dictate how many columns you want, but also the size, the width of your columns and the space in between them. And that's quite a handy tool to have, especially if you are creating a document where maybe you want different types of columns. Now, often in a document with columns, and sometimes in a document that doesn't have columns, you'll notice that some of your words will stop or get broken on the page. And a good way to get around this is to put hyphens. Okay? Now a hyphen is something that breaks up a word if there's not enough space for it on a line, and it tells the reader that the rest of the word is continued on the next line. You highlight your text that you want to throw some hyphens in, okay, and in your layout tab you just go automatic hyphen, or you can play with the hyphenation options, and that will allow you to hyphenate words in caps or automatically hyphen the document. So we hit OK. Now our document is hyphened. Okay, you can see it's changed. So we have half a word here, author hyphen itty. Okay, so that little hyphen there is telling the reader that the rest of the word is down here. There's another one here, however, respect. So that's what hyphens do, and it allows you to be a little bit more wise with your space and your columns, okay? Because being able to break up words like that means you're going to be able to utilize more space in your columns, so you're going to be able to have more text on your page. There is nothing finer in a document than a well-made, multi-level bullet point list. Alright? A list within a list, or a list within a list within a list, or a list within a list within a list within a list. The options are mind-boggling, okay? So what I've got here is I've got a list, okay? And it's just a list of things, okay? We've got plants, we've got animals, okay? Within the plants we've got edible, non-edible. Within the animals we've got 4 legs and we've got 2 legs, okay? Now as a list like this, it makes no sense, but let's highlight that, yeah? And in our home tab we're going to go into paragraph, we're going to hit the little arrow on the multi-level list, and that's going to bring us up with a whole bunch of options. Let's try, you can go 1A and then Roman numerals and all that sort of thing. You can use these presets, or you can define a new list style. Now this is where you can really get in depth, okay? Now you can name your list, so you could call it Dave, or letter list, something that makes sense. And so when you select it, it will apply that multi-level bulleting design to whatever you have highlighted, okay? Now what you can do is you can insert pictures, okay? So your bullets can actually be, images from your computer. Your face or your cat, anything could be a bullet. You've just got to find it on your computer. Right, so that's actually quite a cool thing you can do. You can have symbols as bullets. You could have all sorts, This is where you can change the fonts of anything in your bullets, You can play with the different levels. Okay, so the first level I want to be a picture of my cat. The second level of font bullets I want to be just a round dot. Third level will be a star, something like that. That's how you differentiate between the different levels here. Right? And then once you're all done, you just hit OK. We'll end up like a list that looks like this. You can see the different levels that I wanted differentiated. And you can do that just by hitting the tab button. Easy. So go and have a look and play with multi-level bullets, guys. And do try and actually turn the bullets into photos. Okay, so upload some photos and use them as your bullets. Give it a shot. It's worth it. Inserting a table is really easy. You know, it's just insert table, choose your squares and done. But there's actually a lot of design and control that we have on a table. Now, let's have a look. Let's highlight this, okay? And have a look at our presets, okay? Just scrolling down under the table design tab. Let's check this one out. Or even better, this one. You can see that these are preset designs, okay? But we don't have to run with a preset design. We can change the shading in our cells. Have a nice lime, right? We can change the border styles to be a little bit thicker, double line purple. There we can see it there. That's definitely a design option. We can also play with our borders. So if we select down and we go all the way to the bottom, which is borders and shading, that brings up a bit of a menu where we can select what borders we want to be shown. Okay, so I want all of them. So I'm just going to hit all of them. Okay, and I want the style to be stupid thick. I want the color to be this nice mauve, and I want it 6 point. Okay, and there you can see I've played with the borders of my cells. That's really nice and easy. So there's a lot that you can do in the table design tab. And if we go into the layout tab, this is where you can split cells. Okay, so you highlight a cell, you split it, play with the number of columns, 3, okay. So you can split it into new rows or columns. You can insert to the right, new columns. You can also do it to the left. You can insert new rows below or above. You can delete rows, you can delete cells. You can do a lot, okay? Let's say we want to merge some cells, okay? So we want this top part of our table to be one cell, and we're going to put some headings in there. You just hit merge cells, right? And let's say I want to have heading 1 and I want subheading, right? Now, what I'm getting into here is the territory of multiple line headings, all right? So having 2 headings, but one of them being the main one and one of them being a subheading. Now, what I want to do, control over the alignment of my text. And so I do that over here under alignment. So I can align the text in the center of the cell, top left, bottom right, yeah, you get the picture. Okay, so I'm going to go align center, and that has automatically centered the headings in my table. And to delineate or to differentiate my headings, I'm going to increase the font size of heading 1, and I'm going to hit Control B to make it bold. So now you can see the difference between my 2 headings. Maybe I just put that in italics just to really emphasize that it's a subheading. Let's say that having 1 table isn't enough. We need to split this into 2 tables. Well, You select where you would like the split to be, and you literally just hit split table. Now I've got 2 tables. So this is a little bit of what you can do to manipulate your tables, and using these tools you can actually do quite a lot. But there's a few things in here that you can still explore and learn for yourselves. Like, what does draw table do? Have a look at the properties. Okay, you can play with the specific size of your rows and your columns. So you can actually say, okay, I want the height of all my cells to be 3 centimeters and the width to be 6 centimeters. You can do that precisely using your table properties. So there is a lot you can do. And that is the end of this film, guys. That's a whole bunch of intermediate level word processing skills. I urge you to have a go, have a bit of a play with all of them. Get a document and really just go to town on it, guys. Just what I've done here. This is one of the ugliest documents I've ever created. But it's all intermediate level skills and it's all learning. So go ahead, have a play, follow the briefs of the practice documents that are around and get good. Alright, I'll see you in a future video, guys. Take it easy. Presenter out.